Welcome to the channel. For those of you who are following along on the channel and have been following along the conversations of carnivores, I want to welcome you back. Today, we've got Barbara who's coming to share with us here today about her journey with carnivore. I'm super excited because there's something that Barbara has kind of shared with me in our little email responses that I'm like, I think this is really going to help a whole lot of people. So I'm really looking forward to her being able to share her journey and what she's been through and how that's actually helped her overcome some really challenging things. So welcome to the show, Barbara. We're so excited to see you here.
Thank you, Christina. So glad to be here.
Awesome. So I usually start these out by asking people what took you on the journey of carnivore, because it's not like your everyday, hey, let's try keto or let's try, low fat or whatever. It's kind of like a bit out there. What took you on that journey?
It's completely not your everyday. Most people haven't even heard about it. And when I first heard about it, I thought, of course, it's insane because you can't live without leafy greens and vegetables. So, I can get into the whole, my whole lifelong of yo-yo dieting, which is a very common story, but just for the last 35 years of my life, I've had a horrible relationship with food. And I guess that's probably been my downfall. And then not even really having the proper education about what nutrient-dense food actually is, and about how all calories are definitely not created equal. And just thinking that I could eat whatever I wanted as long as I exercised enough. So the whole calorie in, calorie out theory, and then just starved myself most of the week and then just did whatever I wanted on the weekends. Thank God it's Friday. Oh God, it's Monday. That's been my mentality for 35 years. And I'm so glad it's over because every day now is just even keel. Like I hope my blood glucose is almost every day, even keel, because it's just, and it must take its effect somehow with us mentally, because I didn't even know that honestly, you don't know how bad you feel until you feel really good. And with this way of eating, I don't like to call it a diet at all. I do believe it's a way of eating because I think that this is sustainable for me. I will do this, I hope, for the rest of my life. I may have a reward day once in a while. I have not yet, but I may someday, and that's okay if I do. I know I'm going to feel like crap and I'm going to pay for it the next day. And I'm going to tell myself I'll never do it again. But that's how I lived every single day of my life previously. At least now I feel like I've got a handle on it. I don't have the cravings for the carbs and the sugar, because sugar is a true addiction. And I think it's a bigger addiction than alcohol, in which I've had both. So it's just been really very freeing, this way of eating. It's just freedom from food, freedom from, I'm doing what it's meant to do. I'm eating to live, not living to eat anymore. And that's just been a huge game changer for my life.
Yeah. So that's really, I'm totally with you there, because I feel exactly the same way. That's been my experience too. And so I'm curious, because I don't think people really get me when I say that I have so much more freedom with food than I have ever had. Like, even though I'm eating from only 1 to 2 to 3 sort of like groups of foods, like, meat, dairy, and some eggs, like, even though that's where I'm eating food, I feel like I actually have so much more freedom because the food's not controlling me anymore. Is that been your experience too?
Oh, absolutely. Before I made such poor food choices in the past, and with binge eating in particular, and just really I had no guidance, but then I didn't educate myself either on what was, things that I could eat. I grew up, you grow up in the 70s and 80s and it's all low fat, and my gosh, don't ever eat a piece of red meat. So I really have had, honestly, very little fat and protein in my life. And now I think my body is just like taking it all in and just going, oh my gosh, let's have a health party, because I've had so many things resolved that I really didn't even know were going south. I just attributed it to maybe lack of sleep, but many, many things that have resolved in my life, and my emotional and physical health have resolved. So
That's awesome.
Changes are just amazing.
So what I really want to know is how did you get to carnivore? Like, how did you make the decision that I'm going to give carnivore a try? What was that journey for you?
So about a year ago, I found through a friend of mine, Vinnie Tortorich and Anna Vocina. I don't know if you know I think it's I don't know what his fitness, some type of fitness podcast, but anyway, Vinny's awesome. And it's NSNG, no sugars, no grains is kind of their premise. It's a keto concept, of course. But of course, at that point, when I went, no sugars, no grains, that means you're cutting out ultra processed foods and seed oils and sugars, which I had not done previously on keto. I was still doing all the keto treats, the keto snacks. I still had a sugar and a carb addiction, and then I would still go off and binge eat, on whatever, and then get back to the keto. So when I went NSNG, that was good. I've been listening to Vinnie quite a lot on his podcast. And then I heard Shawn Baker on Vinnie's podcast, not Joe Rogan's, but Vinnie's. Everybody's heard him on Joe Rogan, but me. I did eventually listen to that interview, which was great. I think back in 2017 or 2018, kind of when he made Carnivore thing, but I didn't know anything about it until 2022. And so the no sugar, no grain was already in effect. Still couldn't imagine, still quite a bit of veg in my diet, leafy greens and all that. And then it just kind of snowballed. You start listening to all the social media influencers, Kelly Hogan, Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, some of my favorites, Anthony Shafee. I mean, he's pretty hardcore, but I've become pretty hardcore. I'm pretty much triple B&E, beef, butter, bacon, eggs, some lamb, some seafood, and butter. I do butter. I add butter in there, and then occasional dairy. So I don't know how I actually, maybe listening to Dr. Shafee on the whole plants are trying to kill you.
Trying to kill you.
But I cut out my avocados. I'm like, I still may do an avocado once in a while. I'm not opposed to that. But I know how great I feel. And I didn't really feel the change from just cutting out the processed foods. That is huge. And the binging, that's huge. But then going to the more all meat, higher fat, higher protein diet, the high fat carnivore diet is that's been the game changer for me. That's when I noticed, the skin clearing up, no more digestive issues, no more constipation, all my low thyroid symptoms went away. And as the more research I do, I find that low thyroid can be a very physiological, normal thing to have with a low carbohydrate diet, which I'm pretty much at 0 carbs. I mean, maybe I get 5 a day between whatever, a little bit of butter, and if I have a little bit of heavy cream once in a while. So my carbs are very low, lowest they've ever been. When I had gone on keto previously, so prior to finding Vinnie Tortorich and the no sugars, no grain, my keto was a horrible keto. I didn't really even understand what keto was. Keto just meant to me keto snacks and higher fat, but my protein was still in the tank. Yeah, not very good for my protein my entire life. So I just feel like my body does have a lot of healing to do, but no bloating. It's just crazy with the little things I hear other people say. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. No bloating, no gas, no constipation, once in a while diarrhea, just because I maybe eat too much fat and I have to cut the fat back down, but it's very short-lived and it's just a very, like I said, an even keel with your emotions, with mental clarity, the brain fog. I didn't really know I had a lot of brain fog. I had a lot of brain fog, a lot of brain fog, especially later in the day. It would just hit me along with all the low energy and the things that you tend to get going through menopause. My periods are back and regular again. I'm happy to say at 54 years of age.
Yay.
Thank you, butter, for getting my hormones back regulated. Oh my goodness. But I don't have any PMS symptoms. It doesn't hurt anymore. I mean, I lived my entire life with horrible menstrual pain. So menstrual pain's better. I don't have any menstrual pain. Actually, I used to have to put heating pads on, take ibuprofen. All of that's gone. I rarely, if ever, have a headache, which I used to have headaches, quite a bit. Kind of gross, but I used to have hemorrhoids. Stress, I think, too. Stress was a big one. I don't have hemorrhoids anymore. I don't foresee that happening either. I really don't. I mean, I just know that I feel like I'm like really healing from the inside out.
I love that. I love that.
Oh yeah. This time of year, every year I have to go to the dermatologist and have little skin issues frozen off. Skin tags, spots. Wait till you get my age. Age spots, things like that grow on your shoulders and stuff. I don't have to do that this year. I don't have anything. I can't feel any. There's no skin tags, no little Nothing, because that's all inflammation. And when that inflammation goes down,
Yeah.
I don't know whether they just suck right in or what. It's just like the hemorrhoids. That's all inflammation. Your body has to go somewhere with it. So it goes, it shows up in gout. It shows up in RA. It shows up in MS plaques, so many things. I'm just so grateful that I found it before I'm 70,
Well, I have spoken to a 70-year-old on the podcast, and for her, even in her demographic, she's in the space now where she's actually feeling much, much better than she did in her 60s or even 50s. But her peers are going down that medicalized pathway where their cabinet of pills is just becoming bigger and bigger and bigger to balance out the side effects of this one and this one and this one and this one. And she's like, I'm so thankful that I found this and didn't have to do that. Yeah.
Right. I've always been so health conscious, and I did not want to be on prescription medications. And then just to think of the fact that you retire and then you're going to spend all your time at a doctor's office. My time is so valuable. No, I don't want. And like you said, the side effects from one medication, you have to get another medication and mitigate that. And the whole thing just like that causes anxiety for me.
Yeah, it does for me. Like ultimately that was the big driving factor of me starting Carnivore, was that my blood glucose was really high, and I knew that if I went down to the hospital straight on insulin, straight on medication, I knew that would be the pathway. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like almost at all costs, I don't want to do that. And so for me, Carnivore was the way that I knew as a practitioner. That was the fastest way to get people's blood glucose regulated, was to just go meat and fat. And so that's what I did. But it was there's no way on earth that I want to live on medication for the rest of my life. I'd rather not have life if that was my life. And so I went, if I don't want this, I need to do something different. I need to like absolutely change this and do something revolutionary and make a stand and actually make a difference and put my money where my mouth is and start eating the things that I know that are going to fix this problem. So there's lots and lots that you've shared there, one of which that I really do want to touch on, because I think that there are a lot of people that struggle with this issue, maybe quietly, but they don't realize how much even what they eat can impact their things like addictions. So you've mentioned having a carb addiction. I'm definitely a sugar addict. I raise my hand there, and I agree, it's probably a little bit harder sometimes than alcohol, because I think like we have some thought parameters around alcoholism, and we can avoid the bottle shop and we can avoid those things. Food is much harder to actually avoid. And, we've developed some social norms of like, oh, if somebody's not drinking, it's okay. We don't want to pressure them because they might have an issue or whatever. But it's not the same with food. Go on, have a piece of cake.
That's not the same, right?
Pass the cake. It's not the same. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So share a little bit around alcoholism for you, and then I'd love to hear a bit more about the sugar addiction for you too, and your comparison between the two.
Well, I'll start with that. The comparison is they're about the same. They elicit the same dopamine response in the brain. And just like Dr. Shafee says, it's as much of a heroin addict,
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't give an addict a line of Coke, or you wouldn't give a drunk or a recovering alcoholic a drink. So why would you try to push cake in front of the face of someone who has a carb or sugar addiction? And it's the same thing. I mean, I definitely deal with that. My family a couple weekends ago had gooey butter cake is a big thing around the St. Louis area. Gooey butter cake. My gosh, I literally could eat the whole thing. And so anyway, alcoholism, I'm not going to say that I was actually an alcoholic, but I was a very functioning person who drank alcohol, whatever you want to call that, since my kids stopped nursing about age 30. I wasn't like the kind that drank in my teens or my 20s, maybe a drink occasionally, once a month, if even that. But then once I hit 30, it was like, it became every weekend, and then it became every day. And every day might be one or two drinks. It's not like I drank a half a case of beer or an entire bottle of wine, but it was every day. And I think every day I define that as a functioning alcoholic. I could still make work. I could still get my chores done at home, but was I feeling optimal? Absolutely not. Were my workouts optimal? Absolutely not. And so to get away from that for me was almost not quite as hard as the sugar, because sugar, like you said, you have to eat. So you can go grab something out of the pantry and it's not like you're going to get high, or well, you are going to get high. You're not going to get drunk. It's not as, socially unacceptable, but
Exactly.
it was definitely a problem. It was something I looked forward to every day. And just along with the sugar cravings, I don't have the cravings for the alcohol anymore. And I can be around family or friends who are drinking and socializing, and I can just drink on my water or my seltzer water, my sparkling water, and I can be just fine. And that is, again, here we go, the freeing thing. It's so freeing. And so anybody out there who has an alcohol addiction and wants to quit, again, you won't know how good you feel. You don't know how bad you feel until you quit that and feel really good. And it affects sleep. It affects performance. It affects everything. It's just like if I eat sugar, I don't do it anymore. But if I eat sugar or had alcohol, that night I'm sleeping, number one, horribly. And I'm going to have racing heartbeat all night because I use one of these now and I've become obsessed with my resting heart rate. And if I have I have good days all the time now. So it gets down to like 50, 51 at night. It I guess takes the longest range measurement. I feel like that. And when I was drinking or just go on a binge, it's like in the 70s all night, and I can literally feel it racing. And that's probably even normal, but maybe not normal for me to have a high heart rate like that all night while I sleep. And
I would
night sweats with it, because that's what it would bring on for me. So all that is gone.
absolutely. Well, those night sweats are essentially your body trying to force the toxins out of your body. That's what menopause is as well. When women are going through menopause and they're getting the hot flushes, it's that their liver is not breaking down. Well, their liver's not metabolizing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. But so the liver's not metabolizing, so it's not able to break that down and goes, oh, skin, take care of some of this. And it sends it to the skin, and the skin goes, right, we need to heat her up. So she sweats it out. And that's what those night sweats are, whether it's from alcohol, sugar, or from menopause, that it's the same sort of scenario that's taken place. And so, like, I just think when I'm hearing you say that around, your heart rate was up when you had those things, like how many people are having their heart rates up at night and think that that's normal, like that's their normal feeling. They don't actually know what it feels like to be at a state of rest at that, for you it's 50 beats per minute. Like for other people it might be slightly different, but they don't actually know what that feels like for them, which means that they're living in a constant state of anxiety just by having your heart rate up a little bit more. That's increasing adrenaline, that's increasing your stress factors. Like you're just living in a constant state of anxiety when you're in that mode.
Yeah. And then waking up during the night, I feel like maybe I did, and maybe they do as well, with a heart rate that's higher because of all the toxins in the body. You're waking up more frequently. You're not able to fall back to sleep as easily, and it's just not as restful as a sleep. And you can tell by the next day by your energy, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So on this diet, energy is another thing.
So tell us about energy for you. What was it like? Tell us about energy for you. What was it like before, and what was it like now?
Well, I still got things done, but I didn't go as late in the day, like as I just keep going, like before I would be done by 1 or 2. I'm like, there's no way I'm not cleaning that. I'm not going to run that errand. I just don't have any energy left. And now it's like, whoo, game on. Like I have a whole list of things to do every day that I will get done. Like, so that can be, that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't feel like I lose my energy late in the day and then just can't get through the evening with the things that, you have to do every evening, cook your dinner, clean it up. I've just got all this energy.
I love it. I found that I got a lot more energy as well. I tend to think like a lot of carnivores tend to hit the energy train of like, now we're the Energizer Bunny. Sorry, I've got so much to do. Who's got time to eat with all of the things that I want to actually get done and the energy I've got to do it with? Like,
and my favorite thing is to go around the house doing all these things with my my earbuds in, just listening to constant carnivore podcasts. So, I want to learn, I want to absorb, I want to be more knowledgeable about ketones and all the things that the liver is doing and being fat adapted. I want to understand, like, what am I doing? Did I have my doubts in the beginning? Sure. You hear all these things. You have people coming at you all the time with the red meat's gonna kill you, and you're gonna get your cholesterol is gonna be high. I've always been hyper hyper responder. I don't know what the word is, but I feel like my LDL, my total cholesterol has always been high. My HDL is completely high, over 100, and triglycerides are like 55. So I've always been like a 2-to-1 ratio on that. So I mean, I know I'm fine with all those, and my labs are fine. So I don't know where I was going with that.
That's okay. I'm curious though, like, was there any time like within your journey that you kind of worried that, oh, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing?
Yeah. Like getting back to that, the higher LDL and the higher total cholesterol, in the beginning, that kind of worried me. I'm like, oh, how can that be? I mean, I'm so healthy, I eat right. And so, yeah, I did worry about that. And now I don't worry about that at all. I mean, if I had other metabolic risk factors, but, I do that whole, the waist to height ratio. My HDL is good. My triglycerides are good. My blood pressure is good. I'm not insulin insensitive. So, I know that I've got the metabolic markers that I think determine your overall picture of health that you can buy. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I talk about with my clients as well, that, they'll go to the doctor and the doctor has said, oh, your cholesterol is super high and we need to get you on a statin and we're worried about your heart. And I'm like, but what about your other risk factors? Like high cholesterol doesn't even hit one of those risk factors. Like your HDL, was that up? Yes, that's up. Triglycerides, was that down? Yeah, that's really good. Blood glucose, is that down? Yeah, that's really good. Blood pressure, is that high or low? Low, good, great. What's your waist circumference? Is it less than this for a female, less than that for a male? You've got none of the 5 top risk factors for heart disease. Why would you need to go see a cardiologist? Because you've got one marker that says it's bad. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me, because they don't do it for any other thing, like any other condition. If you come back and you've got one marker high on your blood panel, they're not going to send you off to a specialist unless you're symptomatic and you've got other risk factors, or there's, other things showing up in your blood. So why would it be this for that? And it just, it always blows me away when that happens, because it gives us the opportunity to go, hey, maybe take this back to your doctor and get them to check this and say, I'll go to the cardiologist when you've watched this video.
And I think a cardiologist would say, get a coronary artery calcium score. I mean,
exactly.
$. That's going to give you a lot of answers there. If all your other things are fine, that's going to appease him. And some cardiologists are getting on board, in real life.
That's good to hear as well, because, so many people, like I had a patient last night, literally had this exact thing happen. She went to the doctor, got a blood test done. We were just checking to see if everything else is all good, what's your liver like, et cetera, et cetera. Everything was all good except the cholesterol. And in fact, her cholesterol had actually come down from her previous time. The previous blood marker had actually come down to that, because her body's starting to repair and it's starting to do all the work that it's meant to be doing. And her doctor was like, you shouldn't leave the state, you shouldn't travel, you should go see a cardiologist, get on statins. And at no point is there any talk about, statins could lead to dementia and Alzheimer's and all of these other risk factors that they could lead to, just that you have to be on it because you've got high cholesterol. And it's just
statins may increase your lifespan by 5 days. Like I've heard that you only get these few extra days, but all these other health risks that go along with it.
Well, you could be in a state of Alzheimer's and you won't even know. You don't even remember. But you've got an extra 5 days. Woo to that.
That's something that I think what people don't understand, the general public who don't educate themselves, is that your risk for coronary artery disease, all these things, these chronic, the disease of the West, the Western chronic inflammation, all the things that we have, the cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, all of these things I used to refer to as the diseases of the West, because these chronic conditions like this didn't exist 100 years ago. I don't think they were as prevalent, for sure. And now they are caused by all these ultra processed foods and seed oils that we weren't, I mean, I'm assuming probably in 1900, there wasn't a whole box of cereal row at the grocery store. And, I tell people, shop the perimeter, don't go down the center aisles, because there's nothing there for you, and it's all causing that inflammation, and that inflammation has to show up in some way. So it shows up in your joint pain, your RA, your lupus, MS,
all of that,
Alzheimer's, the new type 3 diabetes. My mom, bless her heart, has severe inflammation issues. She has lupus, and I've tried to get her on the carnivore diet, but it's a no-go. I think when you're so far set in your ways, sometimes I do like Dr. Berry. I just my quiet example, and if someone wants information about it, I'm an open book. I'm going to give it to them, but if they don't ask, you just can't push it in their face,
Exactly. At some point in time, you share information, but ultimately they've got to be the person that makes the decision that that's what they want to try and do. I think it's really challenging, especially for older people. I think they get to a place where they go, well, I don't have that much long to live anyway. I might as well enjoy my life and eat cake. And, they also get to a place of hopelessness where they don't feel like there's any hope left, because I don't know about you. You mentioned yo-yo dieting. I know for me, I watched my own mother go through yo-yo dieting, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, like all of the different things, and not have success with it. And so I know for me on this journey, one of the things I've mentally had to push against was shattering that mindset of she couldn't beat this demon. So what makes me think I could? And so there's a whole lot of mentality in there when you've gone through up and down dieting to try and, help your body and so on, that you've got to kind of move through when it comes to carnivore. And I think carnivore really helps you do that a lot. Like, I think it takes away a lot of that stuff for you, but we all get those stalls that happen every so often, just as our body does some readjustment. You go, oh, is that it? Is that all that's happening? Like, have I like lost it now? I'm curious where you feel about and what you feel about that.
I've hit some stalls, I think. So I always explain to people that, carnivore is not a weight loss diet by its nature. It's a health optimization way of eating. And so if you need to lose weight, that's probably going to happen. But sometimes people have so many other issues that need to be healed first that the weight loss may come later. And, they want to only give it a week or 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not enough. I don't even think 1 to 2 months is enough to start seeing all the changes that can be made on a day in, day out basis of the good that you're doing to your body. So, your body's getting used to getting more restful sleep, all the things that happen and repair during that time. Your hormones are getting more in balance. That just doesn't happen overnight. And I tell myself, I had decades of poor eating, very, very sick way of eating. I feel like, calorie restriction, over exercising, and then binging. And so I've got all that to undo. So I'm looking forward to more changes that are to come. So you'll definitely hit stalls. I mean, at first I think I gained a little weight, but I think I needed to gain weight because I do intermittent fast, and I've been doing that for 4 years, and I still do that to this day. But if I'm really hungry at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to eat. So my appetite definitely dictates when I eat, and I don't count calories. I don't count anything, but I do know when enough is enough. I mean, I know what I need to eat to get what I need in a day. And I do eat when I'm hungry, and I eat until I'm comfortably stuffed. And that's a wonderful thing. I don't ever walk around hungry anymore. Like I said, I think I said that earlier, being hungry and eating things that you do not like, that is just a recipe for failure. And so if I'm going to coach anybody, it's like, change your relationship with food, love what you eat, and do not be hungry. So even along with the intermittent fasting, I overdid the intermittent fasting before. And I think my cortisol levels were just in the tank. And that's why my energy was so low with everything, and thyroid and all that. And I just think things are getting back into balance. And I just hope to see more and more improvement going on from there. So weight loss wasn't my goal in particular, but I'm putting on more muscle now. So that's what I'm going to attribute the extra 5 pounds to. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, that's the important.
I feel better.
Well, that's the important reason I tell my clients to actually measure as well. So don't just look at the scales, actually measure your body, because I have found in my own journey that there were times in a month I lost 0 on the scales. But when I got my measuring tape out, I had lost centimeters and inches off my waist and hips and thighs. And that for me that's the exchange between muscle and fat. I've gained good amount of muscle this month, and I've lost a heap of fat. It just didn't show up on the scales because muscle weighs more than actually fat does. And so that for me is why I track, I track weight, I track glucose, I track ketones, I track as many different things as I possibly can, because I'm like, want to find out, I want to see what happens to my body when I do these things, and how is this changing, how is this shifting. And of course I'm reporting my journey to the people who are following me so that they can see what's happening for me along the way too. But you pointed out some really good things there, is that most people come to carnivore not as their first thing. It's not the first thing that they've tried. They've usually tried 10 other different things before they come to carnivore. And what have those 10 other things actually done? What are their health conditions before they actually come to carnivore? And they go, oh, I'll just give it 2 weeks. So, no. You really need to give it a minimum of 12 weeks. Like, give it 3 months minimum. And then at the end of that, go, okay, what have I seen change? Do I want to keep doing this? And majority of the time I see people go, yes, even if I haven't gotten all of the weight loss that I wanted, I feel better, I sleep better, I've got more energy, I think better, I've got more clarity. I think I'm going to keep doing this. And I'm like, yes, I knew you would. But that's what I say. Give it at least 12 weeks, because you've got to give it time to start to heal all of those things that you mentioned, the adrenals, the thyroid, the hormonal balances. It's got to have time to heal those before it can actually do the inevitable outcome, which is the weight loss, which is just a side benefit of being healthy.
Right. And I mean, during that time, you're eating delicious foods and you're not hungry.
Yeah.
And you're not just, you've got to get, if you can, get rid of the stuff in the pantry that is tempting for you. I mean, I still have half gallons of Breyer's ice cream in our freezer, and Doritos and Lay's potato chip. I cannot change my family, but I mean, I can walk away from all that now. I mean, I don't have any temptation at all to go dig into that carton of ice cream. And before it was a big deal, I just would slip up. And so until carnivore, I don't know if it's because it is a little stricter. I mean, in a way, for me, it's an elimination diet, eliminating the things, not just the processed foods, but a lot of other things that I never would have thought I could eliminate, but it's just, if you just wake up every day feeling great, and your gut feels good, and your mental clarity, and it's like an overall calmness too. I'm a very type A person, but to have this even steady keel, like attitude towards life, and whatever challenge comes my way, I'm going to figure it out kind of thing. Just not freaking out over the little things, the daily things. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And I recommend anybody with any type of depression or anxiety to give this way of eating a try. If nothing else, just to get their hormones in balance. And,
that's I'm with you there 100%. The amount, like I have done, you're probably interview number 8 now, but I've talked with hundreds of people ultimately about carnivore and their experience. And one of the number one things they'll report is that their depression and anxiety went away, that they're able to deal with their life and how they feel about their life so much more succinctly and better than they were able to before. And just that sense of calm and peace that's inside of them, no matter what happens, they've got a much greater sense of calm that I can actually deal with this. I can, I can breathe through it, I can move through it, and I'm not in a catatonic state of like I'm having a panic attack and those types of things. And so I would 100% agree with you. If anyone's watching, you've got depression and anxiety, give it a try. What have you got to lose? If you try it for 12 weeks, it's 3 months. If it doesn't work, go do something else. It will work.
But things back in, you haven't spent any money. You've probably saved money. It's not like you spent money on the actual program, like just eat the meat. Save the humans.
Exactly. I love Kelly Hogan saying that too.
It's great. Our dog and cat, they're both carnivore now. And our dog has gained about 5 pounds, and her coat is shiny, and she just has all this energy. And our cat was getting really, had lost a lot of weight, getting really skinny. He won't hardly touch the cat kibble now, which I feel like, I can't believe I fed that to him his whole life. Now he's eating a whole can of sardines in one sitting, and whatever kind of meat I have and fat, I let them have it. So we're saving money on those. Big bags of dog food are expensive, and cat food, very expensive. So yeah, they've gone carnivore as well. So that's 3 out of the 4 beings in my household are carnivore.
So I'm curious then, you've got family in your house that are not carnivore. How was that transition for you? Did they just look at you and go, oh, well, she's off doing her thing again. She's on some strange, weird kick diet.
Thing. Yeah. On to the next thing. They know I try to eat healthy and all that, but they also know that I binge. And if there was some chocolate covered peanuts missing, well, mom probably finished off the bag, So, I mean, and they know that I'm not doing that anymore. But they think that I'm going to like die of a heart attack. I will be honest to say that, eating the red meat and just the higher fat, you grow up thinking it's so bad for you. And people who have, lower cholesterol and lower LDL numbers are actually more at risk for cardiovascular disease than
exactly
those of us with the higher, as long as, the other things are in balance. Now, if I had a really high total cholesterol and my weight to height, measurements were really high, no, everything else being in check, then those numbers aren't of a concern as much, if at all.
Absolutely. So I just want to clarify, how long have you been carnivore now?
A little less than a year, almost a year.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm coming up. I will be 8.5 months soon. So I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get to that first birthday of like, get my steak and put my candle in it and like go, yay, this is birthday number 1.
I still want to make an oopsie cake of Kelly Hogan's. I've not done that yet.
Made one. I haven't made one either.
I don't do a whole lot of cheese. So it's like, I don't even miss that, but I love cheese. I'll still eat it if it's brown, but yeah. By the time I get done eating my meat, all my good protein and fat, I'm full. I don't need cheese, but I definitely would eat it. And, at parties, that's always a go-to, your meat and your cheese, your charcuterie boards, so that's always an option for you.
I'm the weird one there that just slices the cheese and eats it without all the biscuits.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'm also curious because I know that exercise is a big thing for you. You've mentioned it a couple of times, workouts and so on. How has that changed or adapted on carnivore? Has it changed? Have you gotten more strength? Have you found your workouts more effective? What's happened for you on carnivore?
So it happens to be that I was going to bring that up earlier when we were talking about the mental peace and the clarity. I'm a yoga instructor. So, well, I was actually in the an MRI technologist for 35 years. And so I opened up my own business. Now I own a yoga studio. So my practice, so I teach 6 days a week. I'm in private lessons in between. I'm much stronger in my practice, which I really love about that. There were times I was going in there and just like, oh, I can't get through another hour of, because some of our yoga classes are kind of intense. They're not just all the yoga classes. So, and it's hot yoga too. I teach hot yoga at 105 degrees. So, I'm going in there every day going, oh my gosh, I can't get through this, and that's of course, after I'd had a crappy diet the night before, maybe quite probably drank. And then I come in there and try to act like I'm 100%, great. So of course that's all changed. I'm so much better with that because I have all this energy. And I also started lifting weights. So I knew I needed to do that. So I used to do it years ago and then I stopped because I didn't have time and now I'm making time. So I feel really strong. Those workouts didn't feel so strong in the beginning and now they're feeling a lot stronger. So I know muscle mass is really important as we age. So I'm not going to fight that one. I'm just going to try to keep building muscle mass.
Yep. I love it. I say that to all of my patients as they start to move past menopause. You've got to focus on lifting weights, whether it be getting bags of water at home and like picking them up or whatever. You've got to work on your muscle mass so your bone density stays strong.
Protects your joints. The strong muscles that surround the joints are more, protected. So, got to do it. Got to do it all.
I'm curious though, because like when most people think of yogis, they think of like the vegan and like the fruitarian and that type of stuff.
I've had a few vegans reach out to me and say, you are not a true yogi. Well, I'm like, well, you know what? I just want to feel good and be healthy. And yoga wants you to fully know yourself. So I'm more at union with myself now, knowing what I need and what is right for my body. So, they ought to be open. I'm open to their way of eating there. I don't agree with it, but I did it for years. I did vegan. thus the low fat, low protein. I did all the diets when I did them. I did them wrong. So maybe if I'd have done them properly, I'd have had more benefit out of them. But I'm just in such a happier place. And cooking, oh my goodness, I love cooking now. I love cooking. I hated cooking before. It was stressful. I didn't like shopping for it. Now I just go to the butcher and I get some ribeyes and New York strips, and I make bone broth. Pork belly is a real go-to for me. I love the whole fat to meat ratio. Perfect. Eggs are a great go-to. I love making eggs in all different ways. Follow all the girls on Instagram. It's Courtney Luna, and
yes,
all those girls. Oh my goodness. Jesslyn Randall and Serena. They're so wonderful. Jennifer, delighted to meet you. They have great recipes, great ideas, great ways to make the meats, lazy ways to make the meats, which I like that sometimes too. And just, it's fun. I just have so much fun with it.
Well, and I think that
I'm never bored with what I eat. I'm never bored with what I eat.
Well, I'm never bored with what I eat either, but I think too, and I've had this conversation with a couple of people on the show as well, where for them, they are bored with what they eat. And, you know, one of the things I often will say to my clients is, if your food is the only place you're not used to getting adventure in your life, then you are going to be bored. But what you have to do is actually make your food something that nourishes your adventure in your life. Like, make the adventure your life, not your plate. And when you do that, the balance is so much more better. Like the way your life actually, like, you know, who's against having more fun in their life versus it having to be on their plate? And you can absolutely get totally creative and totally adventurous. Like some of those beautiful ladies that you've mentioned there, I've just gone, whoa, I didn't even think about making that. I probably am not going to, because I'm like the lazy cook. I'm like, stick it on the barbecue and cook it and let's go. But I love watching those videos, and I'll watch them make the stuff over and over and over again and go, maybe one day I should just turn up at your house.
Courtney did one today, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I don't really want to go get my pork rinds and like grate them up because I don't have it already. She made some type of a biscuit. I'm like, oh, that looks so good, but I was too lazy to do that. But I think I will eventually. Eating to live, not living to eat. You know, I know that eating is a very social thing, and we used to call ourselves foodies. I guess I'm still a foodie, but I like steak.
Yeah,
it just makes me feel better. I don't do a lot of chicken. I really don't even do chicken weekly, but I still love chicken, but I just, I don't feel as good on it. So I do tend to stick to the ruminant animals.
I go through spurts with chicken. Like sometimes I'll have it, but I've got to have a lot of butter with it. Like I can't just have a piece of chicken.
Don't you think chicken is more work?
Yes.
I think it's way more work than a steak or hamburger. I would love hamburger. I never thought I would love hamburger so much, but I do. I really do. And that's a great fat to protein ratio to get somebody started on, oh, how do I count my fat and my protein macros? Well, you know, hamburger's like perfect. Eggs are great. Eggs and butter, that's a perfect fat to protein ratio. And I mean, I'm still learning a lot, but I've come a long way. I've been dieting and exercising heavily since I was 11 years old. You know, I've dabbled in Nutrisystem, which was absolutely horrible. I would never recommend that for anybody. And it's just, you know, all the things. I did not do Weight Watchers, but I've done veganism, vegetarian, keto. And then, like I said, Vinnie Tortorich brought me to Carnivore, and then Shawn Baker and Anthony Shafee and Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, Carnivore Doctor, they pretty much sealed the deal for me.
Yeah.
I was on the always Saladino, but I don't believe that at all. Yeah. I can't eat, I just can't go down the sweet route. Oh, that's another thing I was going to bring up. I'm not an abstainer. I mean, I'm not a moderator. I have to be an abstainer. So for me, it's one blueberry is going to end up the whole container. Which is, you know, that's just me. That's not everybody.
Well, I'm the same as you, and I think that there are a lot of people that maybe can do that moderation. Like maybe they really are. I think there's probably a lot less people, if they were really honest with themselves. I think there's a lot less people that can actually moderate than the people who think that they actually can. But I need to be an abstainer as well. Like, you know, it's just like if you were giving up alcohol because you're an alcoholic, if you have a little bit of alcohol, you start that whole roller coaster again. And it's so much easier to never get on the ride than to try and get off the ride while it's mid-go. So that for me is the place of abstaining.
Right. Yeah. So one thing I tell people too is, if you fall in the ditch or off the wagon, just get right back on. Don't say, oh, can't do this. I screwed up. If you screwed up, fine. There's another day. Just start again tomorrow. And just give it time. Start slowly. So slowly means you're just cutting out Diet Coke for the first week. Start with that, or maybe some people are just jump all in, rip the Band-Aid off and go for it. I guess I went slowly, didn't realize it. But then once I went all in, I was almost, I guess I've not done the Lion diet because I've had butter in my diet since the beginning, but I think I could do meat, water, and salt, but I'm just not there. I'm still enjoying a little dairy, and I love my butter. So yeah, I'm just not to the Lion diet phase yet. But I think it would be a great way if I saw something that needed adjustment. I think it'd be a great way to do that maybe for 30 days and see if that one issue resolved.
Well, I think I think it's good to experiment as well as to what works for your body. And I think that's probably the thing that I see majority of carnivores doing. There's always the carnivore police that are like, this is what it's meant to be. But ultimately, majority of people I see, like what you do is actually learn your body. Like, I know if I have too much chicken, I'm definitely not going to be losing weight. I'm not going to be seeing any of the goals that I actually want to be achieving come to pass. Like I will stagnate. I won't necessarily gain more weight back unless I eat a ton of it, but I know that I'm not going to hit the goals that I want to hit. So, I use chicken sporadically if I've got a craving for it, but it's not like a food that I eat a ton of. But when I'm eating beef, I know that I'm actually feeling really good. I've got a craving for it. I want to eat it. And I'm going to hit those goals that I want to be hitting within my body versus the other. And that's the whole experimentation phase of this. Like, I think for most people, you go through, right, let's just eat meat, eggs, butter, and dairy and start with that. Then as you go along, you go, okay, I don't think that sort of yogurt is doing any good for me. I'll drop that. I don't think this is actually helping me. I'm going to drop that. And you play with it. And that's the key, is you actually experiment with your own body and find out what works for you. And I think that's a really beautiful place to go. Some people need to go into that Lion's diet to get the benefits that they want to get. Some people don't need to go that far. And it's just a little bit of tweaking of things that need to happen. Have you found experimentation part of your journey for yourself?
Yes. So I would fast, anywhere from 18 to 21 hours a day. And I've started opening that window. I might open up my window at noon instead of 2, and then maybe have some bone broth and butter and some salt and, just getting a few more calories in, or a hard-boiled egg or something, because I know that I cannot get 100 grams of protein in one sitting. So I'm pretty much gone. I was just going to ask you if you do 2 meals a day or 3. I've gone to about 2 a day. I definitely don't eat breakfast. I still don't eat breakfast, and I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, if it opens up at noon, if it opens up at 2, then it's open about 4 or 5 hours. And that's, I was so strict before, I wouldn't eat till 3 or 4 in the day. And then when I ate, though, it was game on, eat, because I wasn't not carnivore, not during this carnivore journey, but before that, it would just be like, oh, game on. I sacrificed all day. Now I can eat a half a bag of Doritos because it's still in my house, of course, but I don't do that anymore. But yeah, if there's an avocado around, I'll eat it. I haven't in a few months, but I would. I'm not opposed to that at all. And I'm not like the carnivore police, like you say some people are. Like, I'm totally not afraid to show a picture of an avocado along with my steak. I just haven't.
Yeah. So for me, I'm a 2 meal a day sort of girl most of the time. Occasionally I'll do a 3 meal a day, but it's usually really light meals when I'm doing that. It might be a travel day. So for me and my family, we're traveling Australia. So on a travel day, that might be where I've got 3 meals, which is really just kind of snacky stuff. A little bit of cheese, some pork rinds, those types of things versus an actual proper meal.
Right?
Yeah.
If you want to, you can.
Yes, exactly. And, I'm driving all day. So we're not sitting down at a place and stopping for a long period of time to be able to make something. But normally I am a 2 meal a day girl because I have some thyroid stuff. I eat breakfast. So I eat a really big breakfast. I stuff myself as much as I can eat in breakfast. And then I might not eat again until say 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where I get my family to have like an early dinner. And then that's it. I don't eat past 6 o'clock. So my fasting goes overnight. And that has been for me a game changer, and actually like supporting my thyroid, but also helping with my blood glucose levels and getting those things into balance that I actually want to get into balance, which are my personal goals, and is not exactly the same for everybody else. And I think too, I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. In my job, I'm an iridologist as well. So I look at the eyes and I'm looking at what are your eyes telling me about how your body functions. And so for some people, they have this expanded collarette, which it means essentially they've got a big gut. They've got the opportunity to fill that, and that will sustain them, and they can do one meal a day. Other people have a bit more of a balanced, or for me, I have a constricted collarette, which means that my digestive zone is much smaller. So I can't, even if I filled myself, I can't extrapolate all of the nutrients that I actually need in one sitting to be able to sustain me. And so knowing that difference can also be a little bit beneficial as well, because I think sometimes people get shamed that they're not one meal a day or they're eating 3 times a day. And I'm like, no, it's really just independent. Like some people have the digestive ability to have one meal a day, and that is great for them. They can get their protein in, they can get their fat in that meal because they can hold it and contain it and digest it. I can't. Other people can't because we've got smaller digestive zones. And so, it's just about tweaking it. You go.
Oh, sorry. I hear so many opposing views on that. I love Dr. Kiltz, and he is a 1 meal a day dude, And then I love Dr. Bright, Dr. Elizabeth Bright. And, she's more like, I would say more like 2 meals a day, or more like you, like eat when you get up in the morning because of your thyroid. So, I don't know. Dr. Kiltz, I just love him, but I just don't know if I want to do just the 1 meal a day. I just don't think I can get all my protein in. And then I'm going to be back to that deficit of getting the nutrition that my body needs.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
And I think that's where the experimentation comes in, where you have a bit of a play, like, after you've done it for a while, then start to experiment. How does my body go? Because I hear this all the time with my thyroid patients, that they will say that I can go all day until easily 2 o'clock without eating. No problems. Don't feel hungry. No problems. And I have to say to them, I want you to eat breakfast. And if you don't feel hungry for the rest of the day, great, don't eat. But start by waking up your digestive system, your metabolic system, and so on in the morning, because what they were usually doing, especially on different dietary protocols, is that they were eating at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they'd still be eating at like 10 o'clock at night. Like they'd still have a little bit of snack. And I'm like, all you've done is moved your metabolic window to this point of the day so that you don't have energy at this point of the day when you're running around and doing the things. So let's move your window and see if you are hungry after you've woken up your digestive system.
Hypothyroid?
Yeah, hypothyroid. The hyper people just are happy to eat all day. They're like always hungry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but the hypothyroid people wake up that digestive system first thing in the morning. And if you don't feel hungry for the rest of the day, awesome, don't eat. But after that, you usually will find that you'll want to have a second meal. And then, my goal is for them to not have that any later than a 6, so that they're still getting their fasting window, but they're getting it at a time when they're actually getting the most amount of buck for fasting. Like in the evening, that's when our cortisone levels change, our melatonin levels change, our ketone levels all change, all of those beautiful hormones change. It can be a little bit harder because socially we're used to having dinner with a family, versus like, breakfast we might have on our own, lunch we might have on our own, and nobody knows whether we've eaten or not. But dinner, we're used to kind of building social engagements around it. And our hunger sort of goes up in the evening. And that's actually where we get the best sort of bang for our buck when it comes to doing some of these intermittent fastings. But it's about finding what works for you. And you won't find it unless you actually play around with some of those things. Give them a period of time to just observe and see how your body goes. And then go, okay, this seemed to work better for me. Or actually, I find I need to do a couple of mornings of eating and a couple of evenings of eating. And that works better for me because I'm shifting up my metabolic system. And so it is about experimentation and finding what works for you, and everyone's going to be different.
I'll have to give that a try. I heard
that. Let me know.
I can't remember who I heard recommend that for sure. Eating, maybe it was Dr. Bright, but I know a lot of them recommend you just need to get that cortisol, get your level set first thing in the morning, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that we all naturally have a glucose spike in the morning. So even if you're not eating in the morning, your body is still feeding you. So it's still giving you a glucose spike from that glycogen in the liver. So even without the meal, your body gives you a meal. And so instead of avoiding the meal, take the meal that you're having with that glucose spike and reduce your glucose spike somewhere else in your day. And that can be beneficial as well. So I'm curious as well, because you've mentioned you've done yoga. That's how I found you. I found you on Instagram. Do you want to share your handle? So if people want to come and follow you, where they can find you?
Yeah. So my carnivore handle is at carnivore yogi, at carnivore_yogis. And I also have at lotusroomyoga.bjs. So I've got a yoga handle and a carnivore handle. I seem to be more excited about my carnivore handle these days. It's a very friendly audience, a very enthusiastic audience. And I'm learning so many new things. So that's why I just love being there. I have another gal, her name is Sherry, who does the Carnivore Yogis with me. We're both in our 50s and we both found yoga and found carnivore in our 50s. And we were feeling like crap pretty much until that happened. So like I said, we're skipping all that menopause crap. I'm back to regular periods crap without PMS. So it's all good as long as I don't get pregnant.
I love that. I love that. I did have one patient that got pregnant at 51 going carnivore.
That's crazy. Dr. Barry
they wanted to though.
Yeah,
they really wanted to though.
Oh,
so
they
kind
did.
of,
that's awesome.
It wasn't an accident. They really wanted to.
That's awesome.
So it was a delight for them. So I'm curious now, if you were to go back and speak to the younger version of you, let's say somebody's watching this and they're in their 30s and they're like, oh, I've been on the diet train. Should I give this a try? What would you say to your younger version of yourself about giving carnivore a try?
Oh my goodness, all I can say is I wish I would have been doing this when I was pregnant and breastfeeding in my 20s. For 7 straight years, I was pregnant and breastfeeding. And I can't imagine how much of a better start I would have given my own children in their own lives, just all the nutrients that you give them through the placenta. But anyway, as far as myself goes, yeah, I would think I would have changed the trajectory of my life completely, just with the mental aspect, if I would have gone carnivore. So I would totally recommend it for people, going through just anything, just to make life easier, get the hormones under control. That's a huge thing. We don't think that they have a big thing. They have a play in our lives, our whole lives, so just all the things that happen as you get older too. Maybe, possibly the chronic disease as well, the type 2 diabetes, it seems to be so prevalent in our society, and the risk for cardiovascular disease, just knowing that all those things could be avoided by just eating a proper human diet and keeping that inflammation levels low, which is what you're basically doing with a carnivore diet. You're just not inflaming. I mean, I don't know if you've wore a continuous glucose monitor. You said something about measuring ketones and glucose, but I mean, it stays like you might have your fasting glucose might be at 87 or 90 in the morning. It stays that way after you eat 3 pieces of bacon and 4 eggs. It still stays at 90 an hour later. It's crazy.
I haven't had the continuous glucose monitor, but it's on my wish list. It's like, I so want to do that and just experiment and see like what is happening with food.
I have someone who's doing that. That's how I know. She'll experiment with things like rice and vegetable soup, and it will go way up.
Yeah.
And there's a guy on Instagram, I can't think of his name. I knew that I would think. He tests his glucose on all different kinds of foods every day. And it's just, I love his posts, but it's just crazy to see how they spike with an apple versus, Cheerios or versus just like 3 eggs and 3 pieces of bacon, it's crazy. But bodies, you got to keep those glucose levels even. You'll keep your insulin down, and you're just going to reduce those inflammation markers. You're going to be burning fat, and you're going to be running on ketones. Our brain loves ketones.
It absolutely does. Yeah. I love it. Thank you. I want to say thank you for sharing all of this with me. It's been amazing talking to you. Now, if people are watching this and they want to reach out to you, are you cool for them to come and find you on Instagram and give you a hoy and say hey?
Absolutely. Carnivore_yogis.
Awesome.
I would
Awesome.
love to talk to anybody. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fun.
I'm going to put all of that down into the show notes for those of you who are watching at home, that it'll be down there. So just scroll down and have a look. You can click on it and it'll take you straight to her Instagram, and definitely reach out and follow. I love following your Instagram and watching, what you're doing and so on. I love that you're bringing carnivore to the conversation of yoga as well, because I don't think that that's there enough. I think that there's often one really strict line, and we could go into a whole nother conversation about that, but I love that you're bringing a different frame to it, because I feel like, people are hidden in that space. Like, I know a lot of carnivore friends who do yoga and they're just like, I just don't talk about it. I don't talk about it with them. I don't hang out with them because I know I'm probably going to get slammed, and I'm just, yes, whatever to them. But like, then I go home and eat my steak.
That's awesome.
It is. So keep putting that out there, because I know there are people watching and they're delighted that somebody else is actually on this path with them as well, and it kind of gives them permission.
If you scroll back to the very beginning, one of our very first posts was I was holding up a ribeye or a New York strip, and she was in standing bow pulling pose, and I was like dangling in front of her like a carrot. Only I said, "This isn't a carrot, it's a steak." And look how she's drooling. Anyway, silly.
I love it. I love it. I love Kelly Hogan's photo. She's got a photo of her holding like steak on her porch. And it's like, I'm ready to go to war type of photo. And I'm like, that is she looks so strong and amazing in that photo. And it's great to actually look at. So love it.
Beautiful in this carnivore world for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will say goodbye. So thank you so much for today's session. I have loved talking with you, and I look forward to maybe talking to you again in the future.
Hey, Christina, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Take care.
You're very, very welcome. Bye.